Hey guys, Board now back with you, and this is going to be my review of the pilot episode of the new Showtime series, which is called Your Honor, and it's episode 1. It's simply called Part 1. So I think this might be a one-off series, like a limited series. I'm not sure if they're planning for multiple series. I think when you see the setup and the way it begins, I think it's likely to be a one-off story, but we'll see anyway. So new Showtime series, which it's actually just started showing this week on Sky Atlantic in the UK, but it's a big deal actually for the simple reason then Bryan Cranston is back in dramatic TV in a lead role. He is the lead in this drama with a strong supporting cast. It has to be said. You've got Michael Stromberg in there. You've got Hope Davis as well, another really solid actress. So good supporting players as well in this. And the basic premise is, and I'm going to get into spoilers pretty much straight away because I can't really talk about this pilot without talking about the premise and what happens very early on. But it starts at two sort of ends of the spectrum where we have this respected judge played by Cranston who is about to run for mayor in his local city, basically, but he's highly respected and has big sort of ambitions. And his son, who lives with him, basically sets off one morning to go to college in his car, and at the same time we see this mob family, or the family of this mobster played by Michael Stromberg. He's the Baxter family. He's Jimmy Baxter, who is a famous sort of mobster and known as like the most powerful and dangerous man in this particular city. He buys his son this really fancy motorbike as a surprise, and his son then takes it out for a spin, and the two plots basically collide because Adam, the name of Cranston's character's son, Cranston's Michael in this, his character, but he intercepts and knocks over the son of the gangster, the Michael Stromberg character. He knocks him over in his car by mistake, and you get this really frantic sort of sequence with him just so nervous, and he's got asthma as well, so that's an added sort of plot point and a bit of tension, and he's trying to like gather his bearings and think how best to deal with this, and things escalate, and as it turns out the other guy ends up dying. And so this is where the drama is going to be about how they deal with this, because out of panic, Adam just drives off, and it's much later in the episode where he tells his father Michael about it when Michael comes home from a day in court, and that's kind of going to be where the drama is, because the Jimmy Baxter character makes it known that he wants to find whoever did this to his son, and obviously being not the most forgiving sort of character, being a boss, he intends to wipe whoever it is out. And there's this striking sort of image of him on TV that they give like a press conference, him and his wife played by Hope Davis, and she's obviously really emotional and upset, and how could anyone do this? And then Jimmy just looks into the camera and whoever you are, you know, you will be found. We will found you. And it's kind of a really subtle way of him using the camera and looking into it and saying you will be found as a way of threatening whoever of the person who did it, a way of saying, yeah, we're gonna get you. Basically, we're gonna kill you, sort of thing. So that's going to become the tension, and we already see in this episode that as soon as Cranston's character Michael finds out who the son is, who the guy is, then he's the son of this mob boss who everyone knows. Then he's reluctant to actually go forward and tell the police, and because initially he's like, yes, let's do this, let's go and tell the police, but we've got to get our story straight, we've got to go in with a strategy. And he immediately, because he works in law, he sort of has his like sort of law head on. He starts thinking about how they can handle it, how they're going to talk about this, the story, and he rings up and asks for a particular like police officer to interview his son and stuff. But then he backtracks out of the station as soon as he sees the mobster with his family and obviously crying and stuff, and he realizes what has happened. So yeah, it becomes this change of tack. So that's the premise and the basic beats of the episode. And I liked it. I thought it was a strong start. I think there's promise in the setup. I think there's sort of some good intrigue set up, some interesting reveals that they could do. I think we're definitely going to have some interesting or potentially interesting stuff with the Michael character, with certain things that could be used against him. I think he's quite a hard character to read at the moment. I think he's quite sympathetic, at least from this first episode, but I think race is definitely a theme in this, because I think he's meant to be, on the face of it, one of these sort of liberal like supporters of race and of black people, like poorer black people, but at the same time he is like a richer sort of white guy. And there's definitely, I think, suggestions in this that he could be using black people for his own sort of means. The fact that he wants a run at being a mayor, the fact that he you know, at one point he's got, because he talks to another judge who's African American, and another actor I've seen in quite a few things, but it's almost the sort of thing, yeah, I've got, you know, a best friend who's like African American, and the way he just gets involved in this case. At one point, the case we see him sitting um in the first half of the episode, that involves like a custody battle with an African American woman. And I guess I'll talk about that now, but he has an unconventional sort of way about dealing with it, because like the opening of the episode sees him like out for a run in the morning, and it's funny because he mentions later that he's like training for a marathon, and so we see these shots being intercut, you know, like the stuff with Jimmy and his family, and then the stuff with Adam in the morning. He gets up, he's, you know, sort of been in bed with his girlfriend and different things, but they intercut, obviously including Michael out for a run, and he actually like runs to court sort of thing. But along the way, he stops at the house, at a house basically, and he knocks on the door, and it's this weird thing because he's like in his hoodie and he doesn't actually say anything, and this like young guy sort of opens and obviously says, "Hello, who are you?" And he just stands there in silence and then moves on, and it freaks the guy out. But that comes back into play later, because what he's actually doing is you've got this policeman on the stand who is, kind of giving evidence that you know goes against the client, like the single mother. But where his evidence falls down is that to have seen what he's claiming that he saw, he would have had to have like seen round the corner, and the way the hallway of the house is constructed, it's basically not possible to see round the corner. So what Michael's actually doing when he goes up to the house is that's what he's doing. He's actually looking into. I don't know. I mean, how he knew that was going to come up, I don't know. But I guess maybe you have some idea of what the statement might be. But anyway, I guess he's just doing research basically. But that's a good moment, and the way it's paid off later, because he actually uses that against the police officer. But I think it sets up obviously then he has unconventional methods, because he almost serves as like the lawyer on the other side, because uh, which I guess there's nothing to say a judge can't like ask questions and press issues, but yeah, he doesn't really come across as impartial. But at one point he calls like one of the children of like this woman over and starts asking him questions, and as I said, he does press the policeman. But where I'm going with this is I think he seems to be standing up for like the African American community, and he seems to be in this example catching out like a racist sort of cop. But it's sort of funny because there are quirky little moments like that are quite comedic a little bit, but it's also sets up a character piece. But I think it's definitely playing with this idea of a middle class white man and running to be mayor maybe, and how he might be using like the African American community for his own sort of selfish purpose. So I think definitely it's unclear with him how kind of sympathetic and honest he is. But anyway, the big set piece is obviously the crash and the stuff leading up onto that, and just the tension. And this is where the episode really knocks it out the park, because it is very well directed. There's a lot of interesting like aerial shots, and it's just very tense to watch. It feels like a really sort of gripping, tense horror sequence. You're sort of right there in the car with him, and I'll say the actor who plays Adam, I think, is very good in this. He really sells like his sort of nervous tics and the tensions, and he's got the whole expressive sort of eyes, and it's really a brilliant scene. I think by sort of drawing it out as long as they do, and the sort of cutting back and forth, it just adds things on top of it. It adds real tension, and it's really grueling and gripping, and I think you get inside Adam's head and what he's going for, and it just captures that energy really, and that shock. Because as I said, he has asthma, so at one point he has like an asthma attack and he can't find his inhaler, and it's just little details like that, like him scrambling around to find his inhaler, which adds to the whole thing. But I was really impressed with that actor. I think they cast him really well, because yeah, he's sort of an unknown. I mean, I've not seen him in anything, and I think he just has that sort of fresh, sort of almost like baby face, which I think is crucial because this sort of sense of him being suddenly thrown into this really dramatic situation, which, let's face it, someone much older would struggle to deal with or know how to deal with, let alone someone who's his age. But very impressive, and it's interesting. And you've got such a great dramatic actor like Bryan Cranston involved as well, but he almost takes a backseat for the episode, at least in the first half. I think he gets some more meaty stuff to do in the second half, but he's almost, yeah, he does fade into the background very nicely, and as I said, quite a murky character, quite little bits where he's quite sort of quirky, and but I think you are just gripped by this main sort of sequence, the sequence that leads to what the drama is going to be about. But I think also Cranston, what he brings is just his sort of terrified, almost spooked expression. He does spooked very sort of well. When we see him later in the episode reacting to things, and at one point he finds like where Adam has like thrown, I think, just stuff from the car in the trash, and like Cranston or Michael gets some stuff out and starts like scrubbing the car really intensely. It's all good stuff. Good acting from Cranston. So I think on the whole I'm really positive on the first episode. As I said, I thought it was really intense and decent setup, decent premise, good acting obviously. I think probably my main issue, which could be a problem moving forward, is that maybe it could do with being a bit lighter, having one or two lighter moments. Maybe just opening it up a little bit. I think obviously certain scenes were very sort of intense and quite, I don't know, just people sitting around in rooms mumbling a little bit. I think it was a bit downbeat. I think obviously for a first episode it's fine, but I think if they did that too much, then I think it could drag the pacing down a bit, and it could get a bit, not that engaging, not that interesting. It's funny actually this coming from Showtime because it doesn't feel like a Showtime sort of a show. It does feel more like a serious, like slow burning, like HBO style series. Less flashy than you associate with Showtime, but I guess this is a big draw for them getting Cranston and obviously going for that real sort of high quality type drama that you might see from HBO or has seen. But I think the premise and the characters and some of the mystery to it, I think there could be a lot of intrigue here potentially. Because there's a couple more bits that are sort of well paid off. There's this weird bit in the courtroom earlier on in the episode where he sort of like criticizes the attorney for getting there late, and the attorney has this like legit sort of reason, says, well, I have to pee every what was it, 15 minutes or something, and he says it's because he's got prostate cancer. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry then. And at the time I wondered what was the significance of that, but we see later, because I think it's at the end of the episode, or certainly, no, not quite the end, but near the end, where Michael goes out to dispose of stuff from the car so that there's no sort of evidence, and he throws it over like this bridge to the river down below, and a cop car pulls up, and he quickly covers his tracks by pretending that he'd just been toilet on the bridge, which is sharp thinking. But then the cop questions him about it, obviously, and Michael uses that excuse from earlier in court that the lawyer uses. I guess in his case, a legit excuse, but he says, "I've got prostate cancer. I have to pee every however long it is." So the cop then backs off, and he says, "Oh, sorry, good luck with your fight and stuff." So that's a nice little payoff. The fact that he uses that, it sort of shows how sharp and clever he is, but also how kind of, yeah, sort of cynical he is in using that sort of thing. And yeah, then he would use that sort of excuse. But also there's a good sort of hook at the end, which kind of gets the ball rolling on Jimmy and his side of things in tracking down whoever's responsible, because it's mentioned at some point that Adam can't find his inhaler, or he couldn't find his inhaler when he had an attack, and that's why he passed out. So it's found at the end of the episode. We see Jimmy at the crime scene with like this detective, and I think it's probably again indicating that Jimmy has like power and influence, because the fact that he's actually there with the detective, it almost feels like, yeah, search the scene, and if you find anything, tell me, let me know. But he's there on the scene so that if anything turns up that can be a clue, he then can get on it, basically. But they do find the inhaler at the scene, so it's a small lead, but it's obviously a lead, and it's a bit of intrigue. So that's how the episode ends. So solid stuff. I think this does have potential. Obviously, I have one or two like complaints, or potentially complaints moving forward, but it was a good start, I think. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this. Looks like it could be quite tense and have a decent sort of mystery to it. So we'll see how it goes, but a good start. I'd recommend checking out Your Honor, the pilot, which is out there now, and I'll be doing more. I'll be coming back next week to do episode 2. So if you've seen Your Honor or you've seen the pilot, please let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Also get me up on Twitter at Keith Beard. And I just recently added a donation link for PayPal. So if you want to help me out a little bit, support me, support the channel, then you can click on the link, the donation link. It's on my main page, on the channel's page, at the top where the banner is, but also I'll put a link in the description to this if you just anything you want to pay, as little as you want, that's fine. Every little helps, as they say, but it would support me and the channel. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.